Hi, welcome to Lean Blog Interviews. I'm your host, Mark Graben. Our guest today is Gary Peterson. Gary is fairly recently retired from OC Tanner, where he served as Executive Vice President of Supply Chain and helped lead the continuous improvement work that earned OC Tanner the Shingo Prize back in 1999. Gary was inducted into the AME Hall of Fame. And today, Gary is an executive coach, teacher, and consultant. He's been named executive in residence at The Ohio State University Fisher College of Business, working with their Master of Business of Operational Excellence program, or MBOE, as we've talked about here on the show. So, Gary, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you, Mark. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. We crossed paths again fairly recently at
Mhm.
Shingo Connect event, and I appreciate you accepting the invite to come here. There's so much we could talk about, but I always like to start off, and I'm curious if your lean origin story is going back to the days at OC Tanner. I'd love to hear the context of kind of how and why and where and when you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
exposed to this.
Well, so yeah, it almost 40 years ago, when I was at the OC Tanner Company, they were changing the way they were going to market, which changed the way that demand hit the factory. And whereas up until that date, the production was in big batches, they do recognition awards. And at the time, the major way of recognizing people was at annual events, at annual banquets, Christmas time, May for Hospital Week, things like that. And with the change in market, it was more like when somebody accomplishes something, let's recognize them in a timely manner. So order size shrunk from hundreds or thousands to like 1.5, and everything was set up for big runs. And so not unexpectedly, costs were unexpectedly going up. The quality was taking a big hit. And the company wanted to do something about it. And they posted a job for a facilitator of change. I was in marketing at the time, and I thought, facilitate change? That sounds like fun. Can I make a career in?
Uh-huh.
And I applied for it, and I sold myself on two things. One was, I had seen a video in MBA school that Hewlett Packard made back in the '70s, showing the one-piece flow
Mhm.
was more efficient than batch,
Yeah.
and it blew my mind and, stuck with me, and I thought, "Okay, I know that we can do small runs, that we can do a pull system better than our big push batch system that we had." I was very confident of that, and I think maybe that was the biggest differentiator for me, was that no one else knew what to do,
Yeah.
and that's all I knew. The term lean hadn't even been invented yet, so
Sure.
I didn't know where to go to get more information than that. But the other thing was, I believed that our people probably had more to give, more to contribute than they'd been asked to do, and we were a very top-down, controlling, autocratic
Mhm.
culture. The manager was god of his kingdom or her kingdom, and people just did what they were told. And so I stepped into this role and immediately started changing the way the work was flowing. Started tried to get more of a pull system in place, which was very painful. But also started to engage the people more, teach them problem solving methodology, teach them how to work together as teams. Also very painful. Um, Both of these things together, we stumbled around a lot. We fumbled in the dark. We fell down. Um, but very soon, very quickly, the company started saving money. Uh, the results started coming in, and people started to engage. And the rest, as they say, is history. We spent the next 3 decades plus just improving upon that system, right up until they booted me out the door in January. So, mandatory retirement age for executives at OC 10 are 65, and I hit my mark. And man, what a great place to work. What a great career I had there.
Yeah. Even though it sounds like it went from this will be fun to you use the word painful from fun to painful very quickly, getting into those details of I mean, was more the pain around technical challenges or people challenges or both?
Yeah, both. So, we started, I started solving the flow issues by putting Kanban in between departments. In the end, we took apart all the departments and put every person right next to, a U-shaped cell. And, but that's not how we started. We started with Kanbans, trying to kind of get people to learn more job skills, move with the work and so forth. That was hard. And taking apart departments was hard. I mean, when we did that,
Mm,
everybody was now sitting. I mean, we had 1,800 people when we started. Everyone's now sitting by somebody new. They've never actually, they're sitting by someone who they have always mistrusted and been told, are not good for us. It's the jerks back there who are screwing things up, and the ones up there who think they're so smart. Now I'm sitting next to you,
mm,
new product. We're talking through that. That was hard.
yeah, yeah,
And also, it was hard on the managers because, the managers, well, I'd say to them, we're going to engage our people more. We're going to trust them, help them do some of the problem solving. And the manager's like, I don't know how to be successful in that world. And so it was painful there as well.
So, and I think we're on the same page, but when, I was talking about people challenges, I'm not blaming the people, but old habits are hard to break. It's hard for anybody to go through significant changes to the way we're used to doing things, right?
It absolutely is. And actually, in addition to that, we had a lot of fear on behalf of the people, the team members, who, as far as they could tell, anytime they opened their mouth and expressed their opinion, they got their head handed to them. So best for us just to stay quiet. And here's this new
Yeah.
guy saying, "Look, I'd like you to talk. I'd like you to solve problems." They're like, that's not safe to do around here.
Yeah.
And so getting the managers to back off and to become more of a mentor and a coach and a teacher, and getting team members to get confidence in themselves and each other, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. And another phrase that wasn't really being used at the time that comes to mind is psychological safety. It
Yeah.
sounds like there was not a lot of that when it comes down to, people learning the habit of, protecting themselves
Yeah.
by staying quiet.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about autonomy, and you can say we want to have more autonomy in our people, but without psychological safety, the autonomy is meaningless. And likewise, without autonomy, why, psychological safety doesn't give you a whole lot, but together, they're very powerful.
Yeah.
And so you're asking management not just to hand over autonomy, you're asking to make it safe. And then team members have to make it safe for each other. I mean, we had what we had was a bullying kind of mentality. It wasn't just the managers who were kind of mean. People were mean to each other. There was a pecking order, and some people, it was like a schoolyard. And you've got to none of that works in a culture of continuous improvement.
Sure. It doesn't lead to a culture of continuous improvement. So tell me more about autonomy then. So, I mean, you kind of suggested that psychological safety alone is not enough. Autonomy, it sounds like, is the ability to make improvements happen then,
Yeah,
problem solving.
yeah. Well, so like I asked a couple of the managers right up front to hand me some of their best people and let me do kind of a quality circle, kind of a improvement idea kind of thing. And I had a group from our merchandise team, incredible. They were all women by chance, and they were really smart, and they were coming up with some great ideas for how they could improve the merchandise function. And we worked once a week together for like a month, 6 weeks, and we got to the point where we had something powerful to share with the manager. And I told them, hey, let's bring the manager up here and we'll do the presentation, have you guys present your ideas. And they were horrified. Um, no, 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 we're not going to present our ideas. I go, no, it's okay. He chose you to come be part of this. He wants to hear your idea.
Mhm.
They would not be the ones who share their ideas. We assumed, Gary, that you were going to sit down one-on-one with him and share the ideas without our names associated with it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's safer. Yeah,
that speaks to that psychological safety. And even though the manager really was granting them autonomy by saying, "Go be part of this crew," um, neither was working in the environment at the time. So getting managers to let go of control is what actually allows team members to take autonomy.
right, right.
And I think you start small, you give them small wins, and they start to realize, okay, one, I tried something new, and whether it failed or worked, the world didn't end. I
Yeah.
got to experiment, I got to learn,
Mhm.
and that's when they start to feel like, oh, it's safe now, and I can take more autonomy. I can try more things.
Yeah.
Certainly something like the improvement kata that Mike Rother teaches, a great technique for helping team members experiment with autonomy, and the methodology that he teaches makes it psychologically safe for the
Mhm.
team members to do so. It's a couple of thoughts.
Yeah. So that culture challenge, like when I started my career right out of college 31 years ago,
Uh-huh.
General Motors, that plant was very much autocratic command and control, blaming, shaming,
Yeah.
awful environment. The phrase toxic workplace wasn't being used, but it
Yeah.
fits the definition. And, I saw some culture change starting to happen when we got a new plant manager who
Right.
was leading the 800 of us. It seems like a lot of companies you hear about, this kind of culture change starting with a new CEO. Um, Larry Culp at GE Aerospace comes to mind as somebody who's talked about this at AME.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have this mandate from being in like this in the middle facilitator role, or was it a mandate, or did you take it on? Leading it from the middle
Yeah.
it's unusual for that to turn into a success story.
You're right. You're right. It's a great question, Mark. I had a mandate to change the business, but our CEO called me in repeatedly to challenge me on what are you doing? You were-
You were making waves. I'm sure people were coming in and saying, "What's this guy Gary doing?"
Yeah, like, I mean, when he gave me the job, he handed me Schoenberger's book, World Class Manufacturing,
Mhm.
and it had a picture of a U-shaped cell in the book, but he had never actually cracked the book. And the idea of taking apart departments to him was like, that's not what I hired you to do.
Mhm.
And I'm hearing a word that kind of bothers me, empowerment. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not. I definitely acted on the floor like I had a mandate, and but my boss and the CEO, who boy, they were questioning and pushing back, and often undermining me. I just had to be resilient and pick myself up and go to a different corner of the factory where maybe they couldn't see what I was doing and continue my work.
Yeah. 'Cause, the framing, of the mandate, it's interesting to me for one of the reasons is that there was a real business problem
Yep.
where it sounds like, you're describing changes in customer behavior, not planning and ordering really far in advance. The need to be, responsive reminds me, I don't know if you're familiar, um, with, the Vibeco
Yep.
story and Carl Wadenston in Rhode Island. He's been a guest on the podcast, and his mission for lean was very much around trying to figure out we've got to ship everything same day or next day.
Right.
Competitive business pressures as opposed to I read a book or somebody said you should do the lean thing. I love that it was driven by a real business need that how much of that was a factor in the success?
I think the fact that the things we were doing were actually improving the business was what instead of me getting called in and told, well, I was stopped several times, but instead of being told you're done, because we were getting results, I think the conversation was like, "What are you doing?" And like putting in Kanban, for example, we took our lead time from issue of materials to shipping product from 28 days down to 20 minutes.
Wow.
By the time we get into the U-shaped cells.
Mhm.
And but in the first year, we went from 28 days to 14 days.
Mhm.
And with that shrink came a ton of freed up capital, millions of dollars saved, quality improved. Every time you shrink time, every time you bring processes closer together, efficiency goes up, quality goes up, time goes down, ability to think systemically goes up. Um, and so as time was shrinking, and time is a great metric for improvement, I think.
Mhm.
Um, I was buying myself time. I was like, I think as we were freeing up a lot of inventory, saving literally millions of dollars in those first couple of years, I think our CFO was saying to the CEO, cut this guy some slack.
Right.
And I think so, because I can't understand why they put up with me.
Mhm.
It's a little bit of a prima donna. I was young, I was
Mhm.
ambitious, but things were happening, results were being attained. So
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, yeah, from a competitiveness standpoint, being able to be more responsive would help win more orders and get into a growth mode, which seems like the best circumstances instead of being in, more of a cost cutting, shrinking industry, shrinking business death spiral.
yeah,
When you're growing, there's no need to say, oh, no layoff commitment due to lean if you're growing, right?
that's exactly right. Now since that time, the company has been very creative at coming up with new products that have allowed us to create new value streamlines, move people from lines that are more mature and somewhat dying into newer products. At the time, we only had the one product line, which is quite mature, and it wasn't growing.
Mm.
And and at one point, when we actually moved to the U-shaped cells to the mini factories, we knew right off the bat that we were going to be twice as efficient when we were done. As I mentioned, we started with 1,800 people, and I brought in groups of 100, all of the employees, and I said, "This is where we're going. Here's the U-shaped cell." And was like, "Yeah, follow me along." When we finish putting all these in place, we're only going to need half of you. And it was like, "Okay, let's see more about that." I said, "Well,
Yeah.
here,
Finish the thought,
we're,
please. Yeah.
we're
Cause
going to
that's, yeah.
build one mini factory, hire the best 16 people we can find, put them in there, and then we're going to wait until 16 people leave by attrition." We didn't have the growth option, but we didn't have to do what we didn't want to do was do any kind of a layoff or any kind of a massive reduction in force. So we just let attrition kind of take its toll. And then we'll hire the next 16 best of you, build the second cell, wait till 16 people leave, and it'll take us
Mhm.
3 or 4 years, and the workforce will be in half. I said, but let me tell you what I mean when I say the best 16 of you, because half the people in the room were thinking I meant the most tenured,
Uh,
high skilled people. And I said, that's not who we're going to hire. We're going to hire the problem solvers, the
mhm.
creative thinker, come to work with energy and enthusiasm, love to work as a team to solve problems. That's who we're going to hire.
Yeah.
And half the people in the room were like, man, that sounds fun to me. And half the people in the room were like, You'll never be twice as efficient. You don't hire me."
Mhm. Yeah.
I said, look, if you're not like what I'm describing, we've got years. Let us help you get there.
Mhm.
And we built the first cell, hired just like we said, and they were more than twice as efficient. And it was fun to watch them.
Yeah.
They were having work was joyous,
Yeah.
and they're laughing. there's music, they're dancing, they're
Mhm.
enjoying themselves as they solve problems. And immediately the people who didn't match those criteria, who didn't want to be social at work, who don't want to be part of a team, they started leaving in droves. Our
Oh,
attrition
yeah,
went way up. We built we only had to build 9 cells, and we were done in like two years. And not only was the workforce the right size, um, but we had raised the bar on what it
sure.
means to be an employee in this new
Mhm.
environment. So
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I'm empathetic for the people that selected out because again, I think there's a matter of habit and being conditioned to just keep your head down and do your job. Don't bother me. I won't make waves. I mean, I've seen that in different organizations, and sometimes the kindest thing is to let them go. Then, if they're choosing to leave and go somewhere else where they can fall back into that role. Uh, that might be, maybe not ideal, but what's right for them. And then you think, well, now the people that we have and the people we're going to hire in the future, we're not going to wear them down the same way some of those others had been, maybe.
and I think I was thinking there's some people who will never make it in this new environment, but Christian Helberg told me that they did a transition in pharmaceuticals in Denmark. He didn't lose a single manager. And I said, "Well, how'd you do that?" And he said, "It was a very clear message from above and everywhere possible. Everywhere you looked, everyone was saying the same thing. This is what we're doing. Get on board."
Yeah.
And we didn't have that clear message. I think that's unfair. And so yeah, I led from the middle. I didn't
Mhm.
have support up top, but I think the most success for every person will come if there's a clear message from the front top that, hey, this is what we're doing. Get on board.
Mhm. Yeah. I want to step back and I appreciate the humility that you're expressing about kind of saying, well, you were young, you were prima donna. I mean, like we've all, yeah, hopefully we're all growing and
Yeah.
maturing and we're all look back at things we did when we were younger professionals and, we were younger, we were less mature. And, I appreciate your openness about that. And I wanted to ask you if you don't mind telling a story. I know you've written about this, the stairwell moment.
Mark. Oh,
Is that
I'd be happy to. That is the hardest
nice?
story of my repertoire. Um, yeah, so it was early on. We were experimenting. I was trying to put in this poll system between departments, and the work was getting tight enough that the signal was saying to supplier departments, "Stop working. We don't need your work here." At the time, we didn't have any way to do like a Hey Junka smoothing out of the schedule, so work would just bottleneck, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do about it. Obviously, a mini factory can do a lot of things with that. The big
Mhm.
departments, they struggle with it. And what I was encouraging people to do was go to the next department and help them, which meant learning the job skills. But we were in a particular situation where work was bottlenecked at about that sixth department, and everyone else was kind of moving downstream trying to help. And the net effect was a lot of people were in departments they didn't know what they were doing. Well, just about everybody before there didn't know what they were doing. And I was troubled. I was concerned. I didn't know how to solve it. And it bothered me. And one day, a woman from the soldering department, who was about the middle of these affected areas, stopped me on the stairwell. That's how I know that's the story you want me to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said to me, "Hey, this isn't working." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she basically told me all the things that were wrong, and she was spot on. And it was terrifying to me because I thought I could see the problems, but everyone else, I thought maybe they were oblivious to others. And all of a sudden, I realized, boy, if what she's saying gets out, it'll be obvious that I'm in over my head. and I don't know what I'm doing. And I panicked, and just standing there talking to her, um, I figured I had to get her to shut up. And I started telling her why she was wrong, even though she was right. I told her what she was missing, that she didn't understand. Basically, made myself superior,
Mhm.
intellectually. Argument. I had the arguments. I could talk circles around her,
Mhm.
and I could see that her confidence started to wane. And I was winning the day. I
Mhm.
kept going. I kept talking, and doubled down until she started to cry,
Mhm.
and that stopped me short.
Mhm.
And I was watching her, I was looking at her, she was crying, and now I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And she turned and she walked away. And man, I felt awful. I wasn't raised like that.
Mhm.
And I knew I had to apologize. And I was thinking through what my apology might look like. And the only thing that made any sense, I tried to think of a way to apologize without admitting that I don't know what I'm doing, and I couldn't make it work. And the only thing that worked was the truth. I'm in over my head, and I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm scared. And um, once I figured out that's what I had to do, I still had to take several days to work up the strength to actually do it.
Yeah.
And then I was ready, but I couldn't catch her alone. She wouldn't make herself available to me.
Yeah.
Good surprise.
Yeah.
And I realized the only way I was going to apologize, I was going to have to walk into the soldering department. 30, there were 30 people working in the soldering department, shoulder to shoulder. I was going to have to apologize to her in the department was my
Mhm.
only option.
Yeah.
So I walked in, there's no extra chairs. All I could do was I went over to her. I knelt down next to her, and the whole room went quiet, and everybody was listening. And I realized, okay, everybody knows, and I'm not just apologizing to her. I'm really going to have to explain to everybody why I behaved so badly.
Mhm.
And I basically put it on the table, that I understand the gist of it. I understand we need to flow the work. I understand we need to let the customer pull it. I don't know how to, and I know where we want to get to, but between here and there, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm trying to figure it out. And that doesn't excuse me. But it's my reason, and I apologize to her.
Yeah.
And she never looked at me as I was talking. She just sat through
Mhm.
forward, and she gave me a barely imperceptible nod at the end. Okay. And that's all I got.
Yeah.
That's all I deserved. And I got up, I went back to my desk, and I thought, okay, pitchfork and torches, here they come. I was like, oh, Gary's blood is in the water. Now it's time to get him. And that was the best chance to get me.
Yeah.
A couple hours went by, and two people from the soldering department, two of the really high performers, were standing in my doorway. And I thought, okay, what's this? And they said, we've been thinking about the problem, and we're wondering, would this work? And they sure
Mm.
did. It
Wow.
was the first time, it was the first time in about 4 years of our transition that somebody had come forward suggesting something. Now,
Mhm.
I'd actually already tried what they were suggesting, but I thought, wow, what can I do with this? I said, well, what do you think? Do you think that might work? I go, we think it might. So I said, well, are you willing to try and implement it? And they were like, really? Would you let us implement it? And I go, well, you heard me say, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm.
Would you? And they went and they tried it, and it didn't work. And so they adjusted it and tried a variation on it, and that didn't work. So they tried something else, and they just kept tweaking it. And as they experimented, people were coming over and joining in them. And I have a feeling that maybe, and I wasn't actually present. I had a feeling maybe they were saying, "Well, what are you doing?" Well, it turns out Gary doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm.
He told us we could try this. We're experimenting. Anyway, I think it became the impetus for our people just jumping in full straight.
Wow.
And it strikes me as very important that it didn't happen until I made myself vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think, all growth requires vulnerability. And if we're going to grow, people have to be
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. And I think I showed that our management that you can be vulnerable and survive,
Mm-hmm.
and people will rise up. I think it was a turning event for OC Tanner. I think it was also a refining event for me in my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do appreciate you telling the story. And thank you for, the honesty and the candor. And I think, I mean, a lot of thoughts come to mind. One is my empathy toward you and others who have been in that situation of a command and control, top down culture, where there is the pressure to be a know-it-all because of fear
Right.
versus being a learn-it-all and figure it out culture, right? I mean,
Yeah.
think of the vulnerability, not just to the team members, but the vulnerability if the executives at OC Tanner had heard you admit you didn't know what you were doing, they might
Yeah.
have thought we need to go find someone who does. When in
That's right.
reality, I mean,
Yeah.
do any of us fully 100% know what we're doing? If that's the threshold and the pressure put on us, that's a hard spot to be in, as opposed to, let's say, if you were in a company where starting from the CEO, they were modeling, hey, we don't really know things. The best we can do is go figure it out. And if that was being modeled, for you, you might not have had the fear, you might not have lashed out. But then, I think just final thought is I think it's interesting that you had an opportunity to model upward. Like it usually doesn't flow that direction.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great statement, Mark. Um, I think even then, I felt safe admitting to the team members I didn't always know. I don't know if I felt safe admitting it up.
There's different punishments that could come from either direction. The frontline team could make your life really difficult, but they can't fire you.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna come at me with everything they had.
Or try to get you fired. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Uh,
But I think maybe we'd come far enough. I mean, obviously, for all my weaknesses, I had done something to make them want to help,
yeah.
and I mean, I like to bank on that a little bit, and so I think maybe I laid the foundation that allowed me to be successfully vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. Changing topics a little bit. You wrote the foreword. I'm going to hold this book up now. It's
Yeah.
it's now a Shingo recipient. The someone goes and buys it. It'll probably have the logo on there soon. The book Why Care by Chris Warner and Carolyn Greenlee and Chris Butterworth. We've talked about that book here on the podcast. You wrote the foreword, so
Yes.
I want you to kind of share. At this point, this is more late career reflections about leaders and a higher calling about culture and safety. Be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. You know, I mean, part of psychological safety says that I can be myself. My work wants me to bring my true self to work. My work understands that it is each of us as individuals totally different. Every one of us is different from each other. There's some similarities, but a huge spectrum across the workforce. And if we're going to be as smart as a team, then we have to acknowledge those differences. We have to respect those differences. We have to honor those differences. And it runs the gamut. Every type of diversity thinking, every type of scale that you could use represents your workforce, and it is so easy to think of them as just a single blob of something, but they're not. It's a dynamic,
Yeah.
very rich tapestry of human experience, and I really believe that to get the most out of people, every person has to feel valued and honored for who they are. And they have to feel like my company wants me to be my best self here. My company will help me be my best self here. My coworkers help me be my best self. And then coming to work is safe. Coming to work is
Right.
and exciting. And it's very difficult to be your best self every day. Some days, you struggle. And I want to work at a place where on days when I'm struggling, other people prop me up. They see my need. They see an opportunity to serve me and to bless me. And that's a great place to work. I
Yeah.
used to ride the train into work, and I walked through a blue collar neighborhood between the train tracks and OC Tanner. And going home at night, I'd pass people coming home from jobs. They get out of their trucks and their driveways, and they looked beat. It looked like they just have had the life sapped out of them during the day, and they're trudging into their homes almost, "Hey, help me, save me, prop me up, feed me, and let me go back to work again tomorrow and get the crap beat out of me."
Mhm.
And, likewise, I don't want to work a place like that. I want to work in a place where, when we walk in the door, we feel juiced, we feel energized, we feel
Mhm.
excited about being myself and being a human being and doing work with these others, luscious human beings with whom we can be powerful together.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's what attracted me to the book. And
Mhm. Yeah.
I knew Chris before. I now know all three authors. I love them. They're wonderful people, and I was very excited to be able to write the foreword.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're describing is really powerful. It goes beyond. I mean, it's important to not be physically injured. That's one level of safety, but there's that higher calling
Yeah,
of I've heard expressed by people like Paul O'Neill when he was CEO at Alcoa. More recently passed away, sadly, Bob Chapman from Barry Waymiller. I remember him very vividly at an event talking about the goal, like Paul O'Neill did, that not only do we have zero injuries, but that people go home healthier than they were when they came in, and that meant mental
yeah,
health. We know toxic workplaces, that word toxic gets thrown around loosely, but we think of what toxic means. It means, harmful, and like chronic exposure to bad workplaces has a major impact, not just on mental health, but physical health. And, it's just, I don't know if you heard Bob Chapman talk about, but he said one measure they looked at through HR was the divorce rate of their employees as like a lagging indicator of workplace culture. Clearly, that's not the only factor, and they knew that. But like, it's rare and in a nice way unusual when leaders talk about leadership as a calling that way in terms of how it affects their lives. How does that employee then treat their family when they get home? And
yeah.
like a lot of people say that's not the role of business, but like it can be framed as being the role of leadership in business.
Yeah, I disagree with. Yeah, I think for sure that it is the role of business
Yeah.
that I mean, they talk at OC10 or people talk about like it's family. And when they say that and you ask them about it, they say, I spend more time here than I do with my family, waking hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so you realize that, then you realize the impact that work has on the human experience. You couldn't sit in a room with Bob Chapman talking about ways of being without wanting to be a better human being,
Mhm.
without wanting to improve the lives of everyone around you and make things better.
Yeah.
And I think the best improvement cultures, every person feels that way, not just the leaders, but every team member is like, I'm here for you. I'm here. What do you need from me to be successful? I'll do what I can. That is the culture that we achieved, and that we were a growing seaside for TSSC for Toyota, and also for McKinsey and Company.
Mhm.
And I loved having people come and just walk around the floor because that's what they could feel,
Yeah.
was that sense of family, that sense of camaraderie, that sense of caring for each other. Um, that is a great place to be.
And I mean, another word that comes to mind from what you were saying earlier, in Toyota, people talk about respect for people or respect for humanity. Um, Part of that, like, it's different than being comfortable all the time. Like the
Yeah,
Toyota people will use the word challenge
that's right.
as one of the core ideas, and challenging people to be creative, challenging them to improve performance because we're all in this together. Let's make it interesting and challenging. Like that, I think is a great environment to be a part of.
Oh, I agree. You hire somebody new into the environment. We spend months teaching them the way we talk, the way we solve problems, the way we approach the work, and so forth. But nothing I think is as impactful as the time they spend with their trainer,
Mm.
where the trainer is helping them experience, like through TWI, this is who we are. But the time they spend on their team where, they might say something inappropriate, um, could be something racial or whatever, and it's the team who corrects them and says, that's not the kind of thing we do here. Or they could say something unkind to someone, or they could roll their eyes or belittle a
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it has to come from the team themselves. Yeah, you know what? We don't do that here. Just so you know,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
get one, by the way, and that was it.
Yeah.
You know?
Learn from that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's a lesson, talk to people who really study psychological safety. There's that reminder of there's a fine line between being your authentic self and making other people feel bad. It's sort of like the old what's the old line? Like
yeah,
your right to do with your fist ends at the beginning of my nose.
that's right.
But
That's
you
right.
can psychologically, like you can be your authentic self, but if that authentic, it doesn't mean, I've heard someone say like it doesn't give you license to be a jerk. Like if it's
Uh,
affecting others negatively,
yeah.
that's a problem, right?
Well, and I think we all learn things at home and at school that maybe are inappropriate in terms of actual, healthy ways of interacting with each other. And I had people early on saying, "Well, that's just who I am. That's the honesty you get from me." But it's
Yeah.
brute unkindness. It's like, yeah, it doesn't fly here. And in a way, there's a lot of things we have to unteach.
Mhm.
uh, and I think so to your point about the home and the family, I believe the right culture at work sends home a better person who no longer berates, who no
Mhm.
longer uses shame, who no longer criticizes, who now is who believes in building people and in instilling confidence
Yeah.
in teaching and letting people try and fail and learn. And these are
Mhm.
just new ways of being that I think should be taught. If not taught at home, they should be taught at work.
Well, I mean, it comes down to having a sense of, valuing yourself and having self-esteem,
Yeah.
which can be strengthened in a workplace, or sadly, I've seen it really drained out of people.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's turn things to, I think what seems like a really positive, long story at OC Tanner. Like, a lot of organizations have a good run and then things backslide or drift or collapse. What did OC Tanner do? What was your role and others to keep things moving forward?
During the transition, I found out how much momentum is my friend. Uh, Building momentum and keeping momentum is everything. And momentum takes energy. Without energy, entropy takes over, things fall apart. And that is the natural state. That's the law.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can expect that if you're not applying energy, that everything is going to be backsliding. Everything is going to be
Mhm.
falling apart, and it takes work, and it takes time to recognize where the energy has to be applied. And I think, yeah, I truly think discipline is the hardest part of
Mhm.
any lean work. And, so we put systems in place that make it harder to do the wrong thing, that makes it easier to do the right thing. But then you have to put systems in place that track the systems. Are we doing them?
Yeah.
Is everybody doing what they're supposed to do? Is it working the way it's supposed to? Can we improve the system to make it better? Astonishingly, early in COVID, everyone in the office went home, and in the factory we were still working. In addition to making awards, we became the de facto manufacturing arm of the Utah health community. We were making parts, to help. We were 3D printing, doing whatever we could, and everyone's wearing the masks, and everyone's afraid. I could see in their eye,
Mhm.
and it's fear for weeks, and then
Yeah.
they got
Right.
better at that. Literally 6 weeks went by, and I was talking to somebody about their last team meeting, and they said, "We're not holding team meetings anymore." It's like, "What?" Yeah, we quit when we stopped doing team meetings when COVID started. Well, what about your morning huddles? Yeah, we're not doing that. Spacing, we couldn't,
Mhm. Mhm.
we just dropped it. Well, what about your strategy deployment projects? Yeah, we're not working on them. It's just mind
Mm.
blowing.
Yeah.
30, 40 systems. And just like that, they all stopped. And man, I would have paid big bucks. I would have lost a lot of money because I would have said that just wasn't possible at OC.
Because of habit and momentum in a
I
positive way.
thought, I thought,
Uh, yeah.
but it
Uh,
just stopped overnight. And so I got everyone together and I said, look, things are rough. Now, granted, they thought, what, 3 to 6 weeks, we'll be back to normal.
okay. So it was more of a pause than one.
Maybe a pause. And I told,
Yeah.
look, where
Yeah.
things are tough, you
Yeah.
don't you don't let go of your systems. You double down on your systems. And everyone's like, you're right. You just
Yeah.
like they turned on again.
Well, and that's the challenge. Like, well, how do we do it safely? Right.
How do we do it safely? Okay, we're gonna do the huddle, but it's not gonna be, a big mass of people like it was before. Okay, I got
Mhm.
it. They turned everything back on again. I think one fear about me retiring was how much of it is dependent on
Mhm.
the energy I'm putting into it.
Uh-huh.
And so we spent the last 5 years making sure that I wasn't the only energy source.
Oh, wow. Okay. 5 years. That's some good planning.
Significant time building competencies. Before that, my VPs and I owned all the systems, and one by one, we handed them off to whoever wanted to run them. And they've rotated several times since then. So now the floor owns the systems. It's not me. It's not the VPs. And getting them to own it, that's where we applied a lot of energy, and that has become incredibly effective for us.
Yeah. So there's a great lesson there. And like, when you think about the tendency to drift, the entropy, I mean,
Yeah.
you go to Toyota plants or you talk to Toyota people, and I think this has been written about in some of the books that even Toyota drifts, and they'll say, "Oh, we've lost some discipline around standardized work," and then you hear about a back to basics movement, and I'm not trying to shame them for that. I think there's just a reality for people listening that this is a tough force to work against. And I think Toyota bounces back and hopefully they learn not to drift again. So the question I was going to ask of you, Gary, is what are some early warning signs that you've seen or that you made sure, if you saw it, you caught it really quickly, early warning signs that the culture is starting to drift before the performance catches up to that?
Yeah, I think if you've espoused a principle like respect for each other, like humble leadership, then you need some sort of litmus test, some sort of, we called it a Gemba assessment, where you would go to the floor and you would ask questions that would help you ascertain whether the system that is meant to reinforce respect, the systems that are meant to reinforce humble leadership, are they working? How well are they working? Is everybody using them? How well are they using them? And there has to be a way to evaluate everybody and talk about the results, and then to either improve the system, or we used to have a monthly leadership meeting with all of the exempt employees and hourly employees, like maintenance techs, trainers, team leaders, and so forth. So there's 100 plus people in the room. And about every 5 months, I would have to reiterate, hey, 5S, what are we doing? Um, it- I was in several places. I'd say I wouldn't specifically call somebody out, but like, these are the kinds of things I'm seeing. Or visual management. Um, Guys, I'm visiting the boards, and I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm in a team with someone who was in that meeting. I'm looking at their board and it's not right.
Mhm.
I can call the team leader over and I say, see, this is what we were talking about right here. And they're like, okay, I see what you're talking
Yeah.
about. That's the energy you have to put into it.
Uh-huh.
If you don't do that, literally everything just gradually falls.
Okay. Yeah. And what I hear you describing is pointing these things out in a way that's both, maybe coach and challenger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always found, with my directors and vice presidents, I could specifically tell them, "You guys are blowing it," and I can tell 'em what they're doing wrong.
Mhm.
Every level below that,
Mhm.
focus more on positive reinforcement. I would thank them profusely for the good things they were doing, and I would say to either the manager or the team leader, "Hey, here's an opportunity. You guys are doing great, but maybe we could this, maybe we could do that." And then I go to their director and I'd say, "This is what I told the manager. Would you please
Mhm.
make sure it happens?"
Yeah.
Um, I and I don't know that necessarily that approach is correct, but I was always more upbeat and positive.
Mhm.
The manager, the team leader, and the team members, the directors, VPs, knew exactly where they stood with me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, because I mean, it's an example of situational leadership of,
Yeah,
and it's not that I think in my experience, it's not that frontline people can't handle it, but when you have that positional power, people are intimidated often by the title. They don't know you as well because they don't interact with you as much
yeah,
as your direct reports would interact with you. I mean, I think there's somebody said for taking, just a different approach. Or I don't know if you've ever run across. I've seen leaders. You'll go and they're well intended, and they'll ask a question that at a peer level wouldn't be threatening, but they come down to the shop floor and ask a question along the lines of like, well, tell me why you did this instead of doing that. Maybe it was meant as a question of humble inquiry, but it comes across as a
mhm,
criticism.
yeah.
Like,
No,
"Oh, you chewed me out." I'm like, "You asked a question, but it's a matter of perspective on that."
so every 3 months, the directors, vice presidents, and I, 12 of us, would go to every team, and the team would tell us, we'd give them an hour to tell us about all the great things they've done in the last 3 months.
Mhm.
And I would tell my directors, vice presidents, we're not going there to show them how smart we are. We're not
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
there to
Yeah.
make a comment that shows that we get it.
Mhm.
We are going there to let them impress us.
Mhm.
So all you do is you nod and you smile and you like, wow, you look
Yeah.
impressed. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't hard to look impressed because they were doing impressive.
Sure. Right.
And
Right.
inevitably you see one or two things that like this should not be, or they talk about something, be like, boy, I wish they weren't saying that. But I the whole time I'm smiling saying, thank you, fantastic. I can circle back with the manager afterwards, you know, and try to correct a situation or fix something. Um, yeah, I think it's really important that you talk to people. So with my kids, I've got great kids. I got 6 wonderful kids,
Mhm.
and my first 5 were boys. And I was very demanding of them when they were younger, but I was also very positive. I think it was a good mix. But when my oldest was 12 or 13 was when I realized I got no control over how this thing turns out. I mean, this could go any direction. And I realized that I needed to have a connection with him.
Yeah.
I needed to be probably at this point less demanding, controlling, and more praising, appreciative. And I shifted.
Mhm.
And I think it made a big difference in the teenage years for my boys. And I think it worked on the floor.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a difference between praising things that are happening versus, it doesn't sound like there's any part of what you're describing it's saying like, oh, you should go blow smoke, and even if things are terrible, tell them how great it
Mhm.
is. It's not
Yeah.
that. It's got to be sincere and really in celebration of improvement, even if it's not perfection, because nothing's perfect, right?
Right. It's got to be
So celebrate
sincere.
improvement.
It's got to be sincere. It's got to be specific. I'm not finger guns. Great job. And be timely. If
Yeah.
you see something worth praising, do it. And
Hmm.
I would say that whether it's family or neighbors or work, I mean, I call it out. And I think it's a good habit to get into.
Hmm.
You can always circle back and ask somebody to do something better.
Yeah. Yeah. Gary, maybe one final question here as you are in this role, with the MBOE program at Ohio State. They always want you to say the Ohio State University.
Me too.
You
You
be,
did it. You did it.
be very casual about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As an executive at residence, you probably wouldn't fight back. I don't know you very well, but it seems like lifelong. We like the phrase lifelong learner. Would
Yeah.
you wear that mantle?
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. I
Yeah.
do a lot of reading,
Yeah.
learn from anybody I can. People like you, I want to learn what I can. Yeah.
So, what are you learning from the students at the MBOE program?
The reason why, and I've been associated with the MBOE program for years because I like what they do there. I like the program, and I'm
Yeah.
very impressed. And so I've been a fan for years, and so they started inviting me to teach a course here, not a course, but to come in for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And happy to do that. And now I'm mentoring a student. I'm on my second student that I'm mentoring through the school year. And I think they heard me every time I could say something nice about the MBE program. I did. And they're like, geez, why don't you come do it for real?
Mhm.
Come represent us and be part of us. So, um, I, I've done meetings with the whole business school with different professors, and it's a great program.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't go to the Ohio State University. I went to BYU,
Mhm.
but BYU didn't ask me to do it. So,
So here you are, but are there different perspectives that you're learning from the students are younger to mid career, generally speaking, right?
they are, yeah, and a lot of mid-career people in the MBOE program. I think, if anything, I'm gaining increased confidence in our future. I'm seeing these up and comers. Bruce Hamilton once asked me about 5 years ago. Gary, when we're all dead, who's gonna lead this thing, I have a lot of confidence that there's the people coming up through the ranks who care and whose heads and hearts are in the right place. That's probably the biggest thing that I've learned. A lot of energy,
Mhm.
a lot of people that are already.
Well, a great thing to learn and a great thing to pass along. So thank you, Gary, for passing along, stories and reflections and lessons learned. I mean, it sounds like it was more fun than pain for you during that career, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think in the end, I just feel so grateful for what I experienced, for what I learned, for the relationships I developed. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Gary. Again, our guest, Gary Peterson, retired from OC Tanner. Is there I know there's a book in you. I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, are you going to write it?
I'm working with several different people on books. I work with Michael Martin on one.
Mhm.
I'm also working with Peter Hines and Cheryl Jekyll
That's great.
a book on the human value stream. Theirs is the academic side. I'm telling stories that exemplify the ideas.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll have a couple of books out there, which I look forward to.
Oh, great.
And I'm very busy with coaching, mentoring with I've got some clients. So I'm retired from OC Tanner. I'm still working a few
Yeah.
days, well, few afternoons a week, and loving it. I'm just loving my life right now.
Well, good. Well, thank you for taking some time to join us here today. Maybe we can do this again sometime.
Love to, Mark. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Gary.